In the northeastern region of the United Kingdom, just south of Newcastle, lies the rural village of Shotley Bridge. Once considered the heart of the British sword-making industry, this peaceful country town, adorned with historical stone structures dating back to the 18th century, and lush scenic views punctuated by the serene River Derwent, was home to a brutal murder that remains unsolved over 30 years later. 25-year-old Paul Logan lived in the nearby village of Blackhill with his longtime partner Pamela Hughes and their 2 young children. Paul was described as a funny and caring individual, but had a Jack the Lad type personality that could rub some the wrong way. He had worked as a delivery driver for a local Chinese restaurant called the Golden Flower for the past 2 years, and on the 23rd of December 1993, 2 days before Christmas, an order was placed that would change his and his family's life forever. It was a dark, frigid winter's night. At around 9 p.m, as Paul and Pamela were getting their children ready for bed, the Golden Flower Chinese takeaway received a call ordering a meal to a nearby property called the Blue House Farm. At just past 10 o'clock, the food was ready. Paul collected it from the shop and set out into the darkness to deliver it behind the wheel of his Peugeot 205. He drove down and around the frozen pitch-black country roads, and 5 minutes later, he arrived, driving through the open gates of the property and parking up next to the house. He stepped out of his car with the food in hand and, with snow crunching underfoot, approached the front door. Bewildered, the residents at the address informed him there was a mistake. They hadn't ordered any food. Bracing himself against the cold winds, Paul got back in his car, turned it around, and drove back down the snow-dusted driveway to leave. But somebody had closed the gate behind him. It was a busy night back at the Golden Flower Chinese takeaway, and orders were piling up. But Paul hadn't returned from his delivery to the farm. At around 10:30, as the prepared food turns cold, they receive a phone call. The residents at the Blue House Farm notify them that their delivery driver's car is still parked next to their gate. It was empty, with the driver door open and the keys in the ignition. The police were notified. Shortly after arriving, the search for Paul began. It was a bitingly cold winter's night, and the skies were black as ink, but the search wouldn't last long. At around 2:15 a.m, approximately 50 yards from the car, the lifeless body of Paul Logan was discovered on the snow-drenched banks of the farm. He had been beaten to death with a blunt object, sustaining horrific injuries to his face and head. His wallet was still in his pocket, so this was no robbery. No murder weapon or evidence of any kind to identify the attacker was found at the scene. The residents of the farm neither saw nor heard anything unusual, so whoever had killed Paul had left no trace. The Northumbrian police began an investigation into the murder. Detectives theorised that this was a carefully calculated attack. Paul had been lured out to the remote farm under the guise of a fake takeaway order, where he was ambushed and violently beaten to death. They believed this was a planned attack, likely conducted by someone with a grudge against Paul. As it happened, Paul's car had been repeatedly vandalised over the previous 3 months prior to the attack, with phrases including "no legs" being scratched onto the roof. Clearly, there was someone out there with motive to harm Paul, but who? The detectives quickly uncovered that the order made to the restaurant that night had been made from a phone box just yards away from the Golden Flower. It was also revealed that when the order was first placed, the restaurant owner didn't understand the address given and advised the driver would call back to get directions. 20 minutes later, Paul called the phone box back, where he was given the address for the Blue House farm. This meant that the perpetrator had waited in the phone box for 20 long minutes, just to ensure the trap was laid for Paul. At around the time of the call, a suspicious man, about 6 foot tall, wearing a worn leather jacket, had been spotted using that payphone, while another man waited nearby in a parked Ford Fiesta. Unfortunately, this lead went nowhere, as neither man was ever identified. Detectives noted in their investigation that Paul was a man who seemed to have many enemies, perhaps a byproduct of his Jack the Lad personality. In the years following the incident, 10 men were arrested on suspicion of the murder, but not one was charged. Chief among them was a man named Keith Suddock, who was linked to a notorious local Tyneside gang. He of course claimed to have nothing to do with Paul's death, but 6 years after the murder, in 1999, Keith was arrested for firebombing the van of Hugh Logan, Paul's father. While he admitted to the crime, it was argued in court that the motive for the attack was revenge. He claimed that the false accusations that he had murdered Paul severely impacted his life, and he had attacked Hugh's van in retribution. He served 12 months in prison for the attack, but was never linked directly to the murder of Paul. The case had gone cold, and remains so to this day. It seems likely that Paul, with his Jack the Lad personality, had upset the wrong person, potentially somebody with gang affiliations, and had paid the ultimate price for it. Over 30 years later, the odds of finding the people responsible for his death seem slim, but his family are still fighting for justice. Dawn Logan, his sister, has said, "People think that because 24 years have passed, time heals all wounds, and that we've moved on. We haven't. Our family hasn't, and Paul's kids haven't. We live with this every day. We need closure, and we need people to come forward. The smallest detail can be the key." Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Your support is greatly appreciated. Anyway, thanks again for watching, have a nice day, and I hope to see you next time.